appreciate all of you coming out. I think we've all heard about SBIR, and I'll speak for myself. It just seems like a soupy mess when you kind of step into it. And John just enlightened me that you're talking to 26 different agencies when you're talking about SBIR. But I've known John Davis via email, or should I say virtually, for about 8 years.
It's a couple of years.
It seems like forever, but John is the president of SBIR Resource Center, something that he established in 1993, and that's all that he does. He lives and breathes SBIR, lives up in Washington, and now has a second home in Myrtle Beach. So he wants to help his home state a little bit. Superbly knowledgeable, and from my standpoint, it's an alternative source of capitalization and funding for companies. So I think we should all know about it. We should know John and others, Jim Wasson, a few other folks here, and those who can speak to the issue of SBIR. So without further ado, John, why don't you take it away and let's go.
All right. Jim Wasson is your local SBIR expert, so he's going to help keep you straight out. But I'm not going to talk about normal SBIR, which he's pretty well steeped in. I'm going to talk about the other SBIR. Well, I said, is there two programs? No, there's really just one. The problem is the first one is misunderstood. The government people that run the SBIR program have a mission to perform. They have something that they need to get done, so they think and they color everything that comes through them in that lens. And government people, like all government guys, don't have enough resources to get their job done, so they're always looking for resources. Well, this is a $2.3 billion program at their disposal, so to speak. So they grab it off. They want to make it a acquisitions program. They want to make it into a research program. And I'm sure you've all heard that SBIR is a research program. And I'm going to tell you it's not. Research is a component of it, but it's not a research program. So the government runs around talking about this as a research program because they want you, the people you talk to, want you doing research to help them meet their mission. That is not what Congress had in mind. That's not what the law is about. So when these guys talk you into giving them a research proposal, they like it, but then they have to turn in and sell it to the source selection authority who does understand what the program is about. So a lot of times you'll do exactly what they want and they'll love it and they can't sell it back to the agencies. So what's this other program about? What did Congress intend? Congress intended SBIR as an investment in America in the classic sense, meaning they expect more back than they put in, just like you do. In the classic sense, you don't pick the bank with the lowest interest rate, you pick the bank with the highest interest rate for your savings account, right? They're thinking like that. And that's the way you need to be talking to them about this. The program is actually designed, this is going to be a little bit of an exaggeration, but not much. The program is actually designed to make the entrepreneur wealthy so they can tax you and get the money back and do it again. So when you write a proposal or an application to the SBIR program, you're not writing about research. You're writing about jobs and tax revenues that this research will ultimately bring to pass. So the Congress has put a lot of provisions in the law to ensure that you guys have every possible advantage to get out there and become wealthy so they can tax you, because they're not successful until you're successful. And when you start talking to government employees and say, this program is designed to make me wealthy, help me get wealthy, they don't do that. It's antithetical to the way they think. In fact, in most government programs, profit's a four-letter word. They don't like it. They don't think you ought to be making a profit off their money, or the citizens of America's money. However, this program is designed exactly 180 degrees out of that. This program is designed specifically to make you wealthy, to make you competitive in the world stage. Are you aware that this program, and this is an astounding statistic that very few people have heard or understand, that this program is responsible for better than 20% of the world's most important technological advances over the last 5 or 6 years. 20% out of this one little $2.3 billion program. This is where advancement is happening. This is where the research is coming to fruition. But you don't get claimed as an advanced technology, important technology, unless you're on the street accomplishing something. Now, these researchers will tell you they want research, but they won't fund research that's not going somewhere. Going somewhere means getting out on the street. So there's provisions in the law that most people never think of because they're so head down, tail up, working on a proposal that's a research proposal, they miss all this other stuff. But the problem is, if you think about it as a research proposal, you also think about it as $150,000 of revenue. If you write a proposal, if you put the amount of effort into a proposal that's worth $150,000 worth of revenue, you're not going to win. You need to understand this. It's not $150,000 of revenue, it's billions of dollars in revenue. And you need to write a proposal that's worthy of that kind of an outcome. Let me show you why when I talk about this thing. Is the SBIR a federal research program? Well, probably. Is it welfare for small business and startups? Yeah. Is it venture capital for small business and startups? Yeah. Is it federal contracting business as usual? Absolutely not. No way. And many people apply to SBIR because they can do what the solicitation asks for. They're not going to win it. The reason for giving you money is so that you will grow up and become wealthy and we can tax you, not because you can get a job done for the government. That's government contracting as usual. So don't fall into the trap of ever applying because you can do the best job. You're not going to win it on that basis. Is it economic development? Absolutely. It's the only real, honest economic development program out of the United States government. So if you think about this as economic development, you're on the right path. But also, many economic developers miss the point that it's economic development money, and that they can actually have a hand in pointing it to the companies and the places that they think it needs to be used. Even though they don't get to actually put their hands on it and then hand it out, it's still one of the most valuable tools available to the economic developer because it is powerful, powerful money that doesn't just do research, it does other things. It's a strategic business resource. Right? And I'll have to explain what that means in a minute, but the idea is that this is a part of a business strategy, not just a little bit of money to do some research. Okay? It's normally understood as money for a research project, venture funding, supplementary temporary revenues, and federal contracting. That's the way most people think about it. And as an economic development tool, which is the closest of all of these to what it really is. But the idea, when you start looking under the surface to see what's really in here, you go back and you look at the law and you look at the intent and you talk to the people who put the law together. And it's true that SBIR is the most important source of early stage financing for America's companies, but not for the reasons you may think about it. But let's take one more minute and look at what it looks like from a 30,000-foot perspective. Is it ventures in or angels here to tread? That's funny, guys. Come on. Angel investors. Anyway, there's more than 100,000 projects funded, more than 20,000 firms served. Obviously, some firms have had more than one. Right? More than $30 billion under management. And that's part of the rub, is Congress has looked around recently and said, look, we got more than $30 billion invested here. But the government is not taking advantage of this investment. We want some return on that money. We're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides. They may put in $2.4 billion, $2.3 to $2.4 billion of new funding every year. So this number is growing. The large number of projects funded annually, there's a lot of opportunity out there for people. And there are 11 agencies handing out the money, even though SBA provides federal oversight responsibility. That's not where the action is. The action is out at the 11 agencies. The 11 agencies are broken down into 23 different components that are running their own individual SBIR program. 23 of them. And how do I know? Because we do a thing called SBIR Toolkit, where you have to write a TurboTax-like software for each one of these components. We can't just write it for the Department of Defense because you got to have a different one for Air Force, different one for Army, different one for Navy, those kind of things. In fact, there are some agencies that are just ridiculously different in the way they do things, like Department of Commerce. NOAA and NIST are entirely different. It funds 20 to 25% of the world's most significant technological advances. We already talked about that. But it is the entree to billions of dollars in sole source opportunities. Customers. A business is not a business without a customer. It's the world's most powerful business strategy. Most people don't think of SBIR as a business strategy. You think of SBIR as a little bit of money. I hope to convince you it's this, not money. As a strategic business source, it is a business strategy. You want to think of it in terms of how do I use SBIR as part of my business strategy. In fact, you need to adapt your business strategy to incorporate SBIR. Why would you go to that kind of trouble? Well, Merriam-Webster talks about a strategy is of great importance with an integrated whole or a planned effect. Well, when you're trying to build a business, the effect is to become wealthier, to be able to sell to customers, and that kind of thing. So an enterprise is not a business unless it has paying customers. So getting a customer is part of the whole of the effect. So business strategy is all about finding, attracting, and securing customers. Okay? Well, SBIR confers preferred vendor status on its participants. You may have railed against and thought, well, I'd like to be an 8A company and get all those advantages. Or I wouldn't want to pay the price, but I'd like to be a service-disabled company, a service-disabled veteran company, and be able to get some of these sole source procurements and those kind of things that are happening there. Well, this is the way for you to get that kind of preferred status. Only this preferred status is more preferred than 8A, service-disabled veteran, woman-owned, any of the other protected classes. This SBIR companies enjoy the most protected status of any class of people in the world. The most protected status. The most preferred vendor from the world's largest purchaser of goods and services. There's a customer, guys. There's a customer for your products and your services. You know how much money the United States government spent on pet care products last year? $550,000. That may not be the biggest purchaser of pet care products, but they purchase pet care products. I'm sorry, that's pet hair care, pet skin care, hair and skin care. That's not food. It's just the care for the hair and skin of pets. Okay? But it confers this preferred standard for life. No, not your life, your company's life. The life of your company. This is an unlimited preferred vendor status. No other class gets an unlimited preferred vendor status. All the others graduate, or it ends when they die, or a lot of things happen. They start getting too much money, they become a big business, they move to Taiwan, they can't do business with the government anymore. You mean to tell me that if I'm an SBIR company and I move to Taiwan and I build stuff there and I want to sell it to the government, I can sell it sole source? Yes, sir, on an unlimited basis. No limits. No limit on the size of your company, no limit on who works in your company, no limit on your citizenship, no limits on where it's located, no limits on how much you have to do of it. You can do 0.2% of the business and let Lockheed Martin do the rest of it and still sell it sole source to the federal government. Unlimited. And if you say, well, there's got to be some kind of... No, there's no limits whatsoever on SBIR firms. None. Okay? In fact, the preferred preference is so strong, the law doesn't just authorize the government to give sole sources, it actually encourages it and gives you teeth so that if the government doesn't give you the award, they can run a competition, but you have to be the one who wins the award. So why would they spend the time, energy, and effort to run a competition? Right? Agencies who fail to provide these to the SBIR firms can get dinged. You guys actually have some horsepower. There's no other preferred vendor out there like that. Just you. Just the SBIR companies. Are you getting your piece of the action? How many of you have had SBIRs? How many of you are getting a piece of this action? All right? One's expert. You gotta get some. But you know, see, this is what's going missing out of the SBIR program, is this understanding that this is available to you guys. All right? Congress has recognized they have over $30 billion in investment. They're getting precious little for their money. So they're now insisting, they're pushing on the federal government, especially on DOD. Congress is insisting the agency should respond to the issue by giving preferences to SBIR companies up to and including sole source awards. They can, if they run a competition and XYZ company wins, your company also has to win. They can make 2 awards, but you have to be one of the awardees. Here's the law. We have 2 slides. We have a program that runs for 4.5 hours. We talk about the law and how to exploit this and how to talk to the government, teach them how to do their job relative to SBIR companies and things like that. But here is the wording out of the law. To the greatest extent practicable. What does that sound like? If it can be done at all, it must be done. That's the way I interpret it. The government wants to interpret this as it's optional. So your government procurement people want to say it's optional. I think you can tell them, we can meet in court and determine what that means. And you'll find them running tail turn and okay, I guess it does mean we have to do it. All right? So you're going to have to get some chutzpah. You're going to have to get in the face. You're going to have to be non-popular. But you're going to have to press this issue if you're going to want to sell these things. And it shall. It doesn't say could, might, is available, is authorized. It says shall issue Phase 3 awards. So if your technology is there, then the sole source awards are what Congress intends the government to do with you. This is not optional for them. SBIR Phase 3 refers to work that derives from, extends, or logically includes an effort performed under prior fair funding agreements. Do you see the word technology in that sentence? What do you see there? What's it built on? We teach our clients to put keywords and phrases in their proposals and their reports to the government, etc., that opens up that sole source funding funnel to that. So a guy may be working on refrigeration technology, but I'm going to have him put nanotechnology and the coatings and all kind of things in his reports. Things we're going to think about. So if you have a report or an official government piece of paper that went to the government that talks about something you thought about, thinking is an effort, that you thought about, you now have a sole source position for that piece of whatever it was you were doing. Let me get real ridiculous here to make the point. Did you do any accounting during your SBIR Phase 1? Those who have them should have their heads doing like this. Yeah, we did some accounting. That means they can use you to be the government accounting office. Will it ever happen? Absolutely not. But it's legal if they wanted to do it. It also means it's legal if they want to give you an award because you're dating their daughter. It's open to all kinds of chicanery and problems because it's wide open. It's totally unlimited. And it gives total freedom to the purchasing agent. That's why you're preferred, because they can come to you with money on a handshake, on a CRADA, on a grant, on a contract, on any other funding vehicle, purchase order. They're limited to $25,000 on purchase orders, unless you're an SBIR company. Then they can give you a purchase order for $100 billion. They are totally, there's no limits on what the purchasing agent can do for you. Now, if they don't want to buy from you, There's not much you can do about that, but they can't go buy from somebody else and not buy from you. This may sound too good to be true. And it is, because you guys think it's too good to be true instead of going off and pushing the buttons and fighting the battles. No, we need more people fighting the battles. Got any volunteers? All right, phase 3 award may be for products, production, services, more research and development. I have clients who come to me who want to compete against colleges and universities in the research and development field. And what they want is a sole source position, so they don't have to compete against those professors who really know how to write great proposals and do research and have all kinds of resources. They want to take this stuff off the table before the colleges and universities get a chance at it. I got people who come to me that just want a sole source position so their company can use this thing as a cash cow. They don't want SBIR, this arcane program with all its crazy rules and limitations. They want to have an unlimited position with the federal government. So I'm beginning to get a fair amount of customers who aren't interested in SBIR. We help them get SBIR so they can get this. This is the point, not the money, not the $150,000. If you look at it as $150,000, you'll probably never win it because you're not writing the right proposal. The government has come to learn that if you're not going to put it on the street, it was wasted money to do the research. It's got to be going somewhere. And this is how they help you get it somewhere. The law is specifically designed to make you wealthy. Wouldn't you like to have the full faith and credit of the federal government behind you out there trying to become wealthy? That's what this is. That's exaggeration, but it's what it is. You need to understand, you can sell to major customers, anybody in the federal government or quasi-federal government, like the post office. You get an SBIR award for some medical advance in National Institutes of Health, you can go sell equipment to the post office as long as you thought about that equipment under the SBIR award. Every corner of the federal government is open to you sole source. It's not just the agency that made that award. Think about that. Effort, broad as it could possibly be. Every agency, every piece of the federal budget, up to and including personnel budget. No other vendor, no other class gets this kind of treatment. You're the most preferred. That's why you want an SBIR. You're going to be the preferred vendor of those customers. Have no limits, none. On purchases, on amounts, on sizes, limits, timings, locations, component of your company, ownership of your company, nothing. The only limit is that you must have had an SBIR, which had a lot of limits on it. So the government's assumption is once you win one of these, you're going to be static and everything's going to be the same as you go down the road. Okay, they can assume all they want. This says, do anything you want. Yes, sir.
When you say SBIR, and being an SBIR company, are you talking about a company that's actually going through phase 1 and 2? Just phase 1. So
you have the sole, the law says that let's go back and read it. An effort performed under prior SBIR phase funding agreements. So you get a piece of paper that says this, you're being awarded $150,000 to do this work. You sign that paper. That signature was the first effort under the contract. You now have a sole source position with the federal government for everything that was in your proposal. At that point. So I'm going to ask you guys, business people, why are you still screwing around with this arcane SBIR program with all of its rules and difficulties and competitiveness? It's the most competitive program in the government. Why are you still competing with everybody? Immediately turn to selling your sole source stuff the day you get the award. Quit screwing around with phase 2 stuff. Unless you have to have it. Around 50% of my clients do not need phase 2. We tell them to blow it off. Most of them don't. They continue on, like tribe-like. They let the government tell them how to do business. I can't think of a worse business advisor than the United States federal government. Can you? I mean, seriously. And they're letting the government tell them how to do business. It's like they thought somebody died and left the government in charge. Well, the government's not in charge of your business. You are. Think about how to use your resources. This is a business strategy. Use the strategy. If you need phase 2 because you're not far enough along that you have something to sell, that's fine. Use phase 2. But I'm a big advocate of the moment you win the SBIR, you start thinking, what can I do that at the end of phase 1 that'll give me something to sell? I will have shown feasibility. I should have done some planning for the future and during that phase 1. I can now take this off and go get a $10 million research project rather than having to go get a $1 million research project under SBIR. I can go get an unlimited research project with the same agency that wants to get this done. Why do I fiddle around spending the same amount of time and energy doing phase 2 stuff? I see a puzzled face back here. There's a question.
They give you that order. Well, phase 1 is generally, they shortened up phase 1 so you can jump right into phase 2. I think that's,
No, I haven't really shortened phase 1. Phase 1 is still 6 months. All right, depending on which agency, you can get up to 2 years in phase 1.
okay. But it seems like they, I'll leave it in.
They want to run their program. They want you going through their program. They have a program. They don't like me out here saying this. That's the reason I don't speak. One of the reasons I don't speak at government conferences is they don't want to hear me say, blow off phase 2, go directly to phase 3 immediately. And it may not be a good idea to blow off phase 2. I said only about half my clients can afford to do that, can make that work. The other have to have more research. They have to go through the test and evaluation phase. Phase 2 is a test and evaluation phase. Typically, it requires some kind of a prototype test, but not always. But the idea is to go through test and evaluation. Once you've been through test and evaluation, the theory is in the SBIR program, you now have the information, data, and resources to go to a venture capitalist without having to give up your firstborn son to get money for marketing and manufacturing infrastructure. Well, I'm here to tell you that SBIR is the best venture capital avoidance strategy out there. You should only go to a venture capitalist if it makes sense for your team, for that venture capitalist to be on your team. If you have to go to them because you need money, that's a bad marriage. You don't want to deal with that. You go to a venture capitalist because they bring something to the party that can help you. SBIR will do that for you because when you go get contracts with the federal government, they're willing to pay for the infrastructure necessary to get the outcome. So you don't go to venture capitalists for the money to do that. You go to the government for the money to do that.
But again, from a technology standpoint, over the years, it just seemed that I say, what do I have to say, shortened? It seemed more of a proof of concept plus a little bit of T&E test evaluation in phase 1.
Well, it should be a big piece of T&E. T&E is the purpose of phase 2.
Phase
It's not
2,
prototype, it's
that's what I
T&E.
mean by short. I think it seems to me, my reading is,
If you can't
phase
sell
1
it
is
without
totally
going through the
POC.
T&E phase, then you have to do phase 2. But if you're smart enough
Okay.
that in phase 1 you can come up with something
Plan
that
ahead
you can
going to
sell.
phase 3.
And one of the things you have to sell is research. So you can go sell another $10 million research contract rather than a $1 million T&E. I'm trying to get your mind to break loose of what they've told you to do.
Yeah.
They've told you how to do business. And understand, this is the world's worst business advisor telling you how to do business. Back off and think about how you want to run your business. And use this as a tool to do it. It's the other SBIR, not the one you hear about when you talk to the government. Not the one you hear about when you talk to people who learned SBIR at the government's knee. The reason I'm different, the reason I'm giving this out is I didn't learn SBIR at the government's knee. I grew up in aerospace, managing research and development, I'm a dirty fingernail researcher, doing research and development, grew up through engineering and research department head, became a C-level executive, finally got to the point I was responsible for the success of the division and corporation. And I was always looking for a way to game the system so I could have advantage. There it is. Here's the system to game. I go back and look at the law. I go back and talk to people, try to figure out what's going on. This is the way you game the SBIR system for best outcome, the best reward. Isn't that what you want? Or do you want to just do business the way the government tells you to? And there's nothing wrong with that. I just find it humdrum and low reward to do business the way the government tells you to do it. And there's a lot more of this than you guys are going to hear. This is only an hour program. I got an all-day program that talks about how to win SBIRs to begin with, and then a half-day program that talks about the law, and then we've got tools and resources to help people go forward, and I've even got a new business model where I'm helping people to accomplish this. So, anyway, back to this. Well, we've got it. We didn't go that far. No limits on purchases, size, location. Unlimited contractual relationship with the customer, up to, or maybe I'll say down to and including handshakes. They're not limited. You're limited to what they're willing to do, but they're not limited. They can do anything they want with you SBIR companies without going to jail. They may lose their jobs because they're not following the FAR or the DFAR. But they're not going to go to jail for it because it's legal to deal with you on any basis whatsoever. It frees up the purchasing agent to deal with you. They don't have to run a competition and take the low bidder. They can negotiate what they want with you. They don't have to wait and write a solicitation, send it to the lawyers, get the solicitation back, send it out for bids, bring it back in, bring in people to talk about it, give oral presentations, make best and final, send those out, bring them back in. 2 years later, they make an award. Now they can make an award today. They don't have to wait till tomorrow. You go in and talk them into this, and then talk them into purchasing what you have to offer, whether it's a good or a service, and they can actually make the award today. Now, the person you're going to talk to is obviously not going to be the contracting officer. You're going to be talking to the technical people who need what you want. You and the technical people, once you got them indoctrinated, have to go talk to the contracting officer who's doing that. Because technical people can't buy from you. Only contracting officers can do that. And so now you got a thing to, but then you need tools and resources to do that, and we have those for you. And we get ready to go play that game. To help the contracting officer learn two things. One, that it's legal, and two, that everybody else is doing it but them. And it's career safe. Once they learn it's career safe, they learn that they can meet their mission faster, easier, cheaper, and better dealing with SBIR companies and blow everybody else off. They don't even put in the FBO that they're doing this. They can. They don't have to. It's not necessary. It's only an agency. I'm looking for it. It's an agency practice that they use the FBO on this. SBIR is they're free to deal with you on any basis whatsoever. So they're going to follow the FARs. They're going to follow the agency practices, but they don't have to. They're free to meet their mission in the best way possible. Except that if they decide that another company has a better technology, they've also got, when they award it to them, they've also got to award it to you if it's the same technology area you're in. So you may be behind the 8 ball on that kind of a thing. And I personally don't like the idea that we're forcing our government to take less than the best technologies out there. But this does do that. What this says is if you're good enough, if your approach, your technology, your offering, your service is good enough, they cannot give it to you. The only way they cannot give it to you is if they articulate to the United States Congress why giving it to you will harm their mission. So if you are good enough, you're in. So if you want to have the lazy man's approach to government contracting, here it is. It's open to all kind of abuse and gaming and stuff, but that's what I bring into you. Hey guys, while it's available, do we want to do this or not? You enjoy protections against the customer's malintent. If the customer doesn't do what you need here, you have teeth. It's in the form of the Small Business Administration. Doesn't that make your bones quake if you've got that 8/10 of a pound gorilla in your corner? But that's who it is, and they're the ones responsible for reporting to Congress. The agencies aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing and stuff like that. So that's one of the things we work with. So it's not like you have superpower over these guys, but you have the power of a threat. And most government people yield to the power of a threat because it's just too messy to deal with the interagency issues. All right. Customers would be obligated to keep your IP and other data private. When you win an SBIR, one of the things that's really not well understood, and it's one of the most powerful aspects of SBIR, STTR. Well, by the way, when I say SBIR, you can put /STTR behind it, okay? I mean, I just use SBIR as an umbrella term for SBIR/STTR. I mean, when you win one of these things, the government is required by law to keep your secrets, as long as you've identified them as such, to keep your secrets private for 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 years from the last day you work on the project. If it's a DoD, it's 5 years. Okay? From the last day, not the day you started, the last day. So when you finish your phase 1, you get a phase 1, you work for 6 months, you turn in a final report on the last day, and a clock starts ticking. In 4 years, the alarm goes off, the government can now tell people about what you've done and share your secrets. In the meantime, if you got a phase 2 or a phase 3, clock goes back to 0 and sits there and waits until the last day you work on that project, and then it starts ticking off the 4 years again. If in the meantime you get another phase 2 or a phase 3, or a relevant phase 1 that is in the same ballpark, clock back to 0. You can hold the government off ad infinitum here through the strategy of using this. And one of the really great things about this is the government's always stealing technology because the GAO has to pay for it when they lose in court. This is not intellectual property law. This is contract law, meaning that agency has to pay for it themselves. So there are teeth here that aren't available to most people when they start stealing intellectual property. This is different. You can also attack this through intellectual property law and get a second award, but this is a different thing. The agency who screws you is the one who has to answer for it. That's not normal in government. They're not used to dealing with this. They don't understand that. So if you want them to understand it, guess where they're going to get that information? You guys. You're going to have to tell them. You don't get to treat me like you do everybody else out here. I've got special privileges. You mess with my intellectual property, we're going to be in contract law court, and you're going to be sitting there defending your agency because your agency's going to pay the bill. Different. All such special attributes survive for the life of the firm. So in terms of having to have a exit strategy in case you die or you decide you want to retire and leave the business or something like that, it's not necessary. The business is going to continue to survive just fine. One of the problems here is if you try to sell the business to somebody, will this survive? Typically not. We have seen some, there's one lawyer in Washington, D.C. who kind of knows how to make this work. Typically the sale of something that keeps these attributes is the sale of a product line, not a company. You can sell a product line that maintains these attributes, but you can't sell the company. When you sell the company, you're no longer an SBIR participant. So for the life of your firm, as long as your firm is your firm, these will continue for you. I know that's a fine point you probably don't want to hear right now, but when you get ready to sell it, get yourself a good $800 an hour lawyer. Don't mess with, $200 an hour broker. Somebody who really knows this stuff. So, are you interested in the strategy?
Yep.
Great. I have one guy who's interested. Yeah, I'm doing really well. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread, guys. This is a dream come true. Or would you rather compete with all of the other large, experienced, prepared, well-funded, customer-connected vendors out there? That's your choice. You can grow up into normal government contracting and do that. I go to government contracting conferences and I listen to people tell you how to compete, how to search the FBO, how to go talk to the customer, how to do this, that, and the other. They don't say one word about SBIR. Why would you do it the old-fashioned way? This is the way you get into government contracting and are effective and successful. Why you want to worry about protecting the intellectual property from the government? The government steals intellectual property all the time. Why do you want to invest in marketing, sales, and proposal efforts? I've run proposals that cost more than $1 million to do, to write the proposal. Literally. But I worked for a large aerospace firm. They could afford it, and that's the way they had no choice. They had to compete that way. You don't have to. You can get yourself in this position where that's not an issue for you. You're still going to have to write proposals, but they don't have to be competitive with Lockheed Martins and Pfizer's and people like that. And why do you spend time trying to secure venture capital? Because you think you need money. Yeah, you do that when you need a partner that has all the right Rolodex and the tools and the things and knowledge and things you need for doing things. That's true. But when you're dealing with the federal government, most of the time, the money that you would use the venture capital for is not required to come from a third party, because they will often provide the money for you to get the job done from soup to nuts. Depending on how you work the deals with them and how you make things happen. You're going to be in a negotiation here, not responding to a solicitation that has 5, 8 defined characteristics. So you get to let the government be your venture capitalist to some degree. And the government's probably not going to insist on you having a liquidity event 3 to 5 years hence to drive you toward it, whether it's the right thing for your company, the technology, or whatever. You get to decide how to run your business if you let the government be doing this. And there's a lot of et cetera. I'm not going to go into all of this. I was only given an hour, including questions and things from you guys, so I didn't bring my 4.5-hour pitch in here. All right. A lot of the benefits of SBIR, I mean, it's very beneficial. You get quick money. Typically, you're looking at about 8 to 10 months. DOD's turning them around in 4. NIH and USDA are still out there at a long distance, long times. But the other agencies are trying to pull stuff down to 3 to 4 months notice for money. Cash revenues, usually in advance of work. And I use the word usually kind of loosely here because most agencies will give you money in advance of work. DOD is the largest agency, and they do contracts. They have done contracts exclusively. There are going to be a few grants coming from DOD now, but generally they want you to work for 30 days, turn in an invoice, and get paid within 30 days. So you're 60 days into the DOD's work before you get paid. That's if all the paperwork and everything runs smoothly. You can ask them for funding in advance of work, though. It will slow down the award of your contract, but you can ask for it and get it without too much trouble. You get to keep the technology and intellectual property ownership. If you didn't, it wouldn't make any difference whether they kept your secrets or not, because you've already given it to them. But you get to keep this, and this is one of those provisions that are in there for the purpose of helping you become wealthy, so we can tax you. If you couldn't own the intellectual property ownership, you'd never get investors. You'd never put out the effort and energy to go forward with this stuff, unless you're an internet service provider. Maybe you do it. But no equity dilution. So that even though they're acting as a venture capitalist, they're not going to take a seat on your board. There's no control from them other than the control of a customer. You build what they want or they don't buy it. So they have a lot of say in what you do, but no more than a normal customer does. All right. Reserve cash for operations, whether you are spectacularly successful or spectacularly unsuccessful, you don't have to pay this money back. You can think of it as a gift to you. Now the word grant has some particular meaning and contracts have particular meaning. They're terms of art used inside the government. So I don't like to hear us SBIR guys out here talking about contracts and grants because you guys don't understand what that means. from the internal government perspective. I prefer to talk about SBIR money as a gift. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a grant or a contract. It's a gift to you. Now you have to perform what you said you were going to do in the proposal, but that's all you have to do, so be careful how you write your proposal. But it is also the most advantageous entree into federal contracting. You don't want to be competing. You don't want to have to grow up and learn the lessons I learned how to compete out there in the cold, cruel world against all the other federal contractors. You don't have to with this program. It took me years to learn it. It was a very painful process, and every time we did it, it was bloody. You want to be the preferred vendor. It doesn't have to deal with that. Right? This is truly a cash cow if you play it right. South Carolina's not playing it right. Ranked by awards received, you're 35th. Well, that's not too unexpected. You're a small state. You shouldn't be at the top end, right? California ought to be at the top. Texas ought to be at the top. Big states with lots of technology, lots of stuff over there ought to be at the top. Okay, that's fair comment. But if you rank you by success ratio, the number of wins by the number of proposals, not so good. If you normalize it so that your award ratios and things are normalized by dividing them by your gross state products, and now you're not only talking about a small state, how do we do really against the other economies out there? Well, you drop to the 4th quartile there, you can get it better, you got worse. I attribute that to the fact that you guys don't know about the other program. You're thinking about it as $150,000 of research. You're writing research projects. You're putting the amount of effort into it that's appropriate for $150,000 of payback, of revenues. And that's what's happening to you. If you'll learn that we're talking about not 150,000 but billions, and this is the pathway to the world's best business strategy, it's worth any amount of effort, any amount of blood, sweat, and tears to get a hold of this thing, I think your success ratio will change. I think you'll go through the roof here. But the idea is you have to understand what you're chasing. It's not a little bit of money to do research. It's the best business strategy available. So let's get busy and go after that. I think you'll find that you'll do better. Oops. The wrong one. If you look at just the smaller states, you're 18th out of 25. Just look at the similar sized states. But I ranked them so they're just slightly larger to all the way down to zero, to the smallest economy out there. You're still 3rd quartile even in that group. Okay? We can help. We can help you win these SBIRs. We have proposal development tools for you that cut down the amount of effort considerably on going after it. We have tutorial packages that help you learn about some of these issues and others, the project management, government contract cost accounting, things like that. We have classes, here's crafting federal budget cost proposals, project management, and if somebody's interested, here's the big 9.5 hours, 2-day class compressed into one brutal 9.5 hour day on how to win. And here's the path that we used most often. This is what most people use as they run through this path with us. And by doing that, they spend less than $2,000 for all the help they can stand. Any more help would hurt them, not help them. Anyway, that's what we're doing. We have all of these things have been engineered, tested, and proven effective since 1993. We've been in the business a long time. We're full-time in this business. We understand SBIR as well or better than anybody does. We're not drive-by consultants. We don't spend our time doing other stuff. You can't trace these 23 different units out there part-time. You spend full time chasing, understanding the SBIR program, and the rest of your time, whatever that is, helping people. That's why we have commoditized our support and the software and tools and across the internet ways of working with people so that we don't spend a lot of time doing that. We spend more time staying up to speed, going to the conferences and that kind of thing. We stay in the program manager's faces, and we try to find all the evaluators we can to figure out what's going on. We're unique in the industry. We do make the required investments to stay up to date. I know of no other outfit that does that. The others keep okay up to date, but they're not staying on top of everything. Very public, highly visible, transparent. Top reputation here. Go check us out, please. Don't come to us if you're not comfortable with us. We bring cost and time saving tools to this program. We equip we're equipped with all the tools needed for support. C-level executive experience, R&D project planning, management expertise, and research and federal marketing expertise. We're the real deal. We're not people out of the government. We're not out of a nonprofit organization. We've survived and thrived on doing what you guys are trying to do here. And we offer a true proposal professional. And the reason I say it this way is because I'm a member of the Association of Proposal Management Professionals. Only organization for proposal professionals in the world. And there's no other SBIR people in this program. I'm the only member of this professional organization for proposal. And we're the only provider in the industry that offering satisfaction guarantees. Anything you come to me for, if you don't feel you got your money's worth, you don't pay for it. Or you pay what you think it was worth. Okay? And then no other consultants are going to offer you that deal. Because they know that ultimately you'll run into me and they'll want to give you money back. And we are the intelligent choice when you're serious about SBIR. We guarantee performance, we guarantee satisfaction. We will make you happy. The longer you look at that, the funnier it gets. Okay, and then I want to leave you with one final thought. And it's really appropriate for this. Do one brave thing today and run like hell. Because in order to take advantage of this, that's what we're doing. We're being brave, we're being bold, we're being brash, we're doing the things the government does not really appreciate. Congress will appreciate it, but Congress is not the people you deal with. Okay, so this is not an easy thing to deal with. Right? And that's the end of the presentation. We got 8 minutes for questions. I'm here. I'll stay longer than that if they'll give you the room.
What would you say is a major shortcoming in companies submitting and not winning the SBIR Phase 1 proposal? What's the major area where they're falling short in the technical description of what they're trying to do?
You've asked a gigantic question, but let me see if I can attack it a little bit for you. If you talk to the government and ask that question, they say they need to read the solicitation. Read the solicitation. Follow the rules. That's not the right answer. That is an answer. It's a good answer, but it's not the right answer. The right answer is you need to understand the program. They think by reading the solicitation you'll understand the program. It's not so. The fact is, at different agencies, you have different cultures and different things that you need to do. So understanding the program, one of the things says that you've got to make agency contact. You've got to understand what they're doing. For instance, a lot of the agencies will use the words, I'm looking for now. NSF is looking for intellectual value, intellectual merit. I don't have intellectual merit in there. That's what that is. Intellectual merit. What does that mean? A lot of agencies use the term. It means something different at each agency. You don't know what it means. Only they know what it means. So you have to go look and see what the agency means. However, the agency's not the evaluator. The evaluator's the evaluator. What does the evaluator understand intellectual merit to mean? Well, the evaluator may understand intellectual merit to mean what the project manager who's leading the evaluation tells them it means, or they may have their own idea about what intellectual merit means. And each agency is different, each evaluator is different. I have a friend, one of my competitors, who says that proposal evaluation is a personal context sport. Everybody goes at it from a different angle, and they do. Understanding the program, understanding the issues you're up against is the most important thing you can do. At some agencies, they'll use the money to buy pencils. At some agencies, you actually have to be making cutting-edge, state-of-the-art advancement in some major area of science or you forget it. A lot of difference between pencils and that. Understanding what they're doing. But in all cases, understanding that it has to be technology that's going somewhere, meaning what I've told you about here. Not just the advantages that I brought to you, but the fact that the purpose of the program is to get products and services out there for sale, mostly to the government or the people the government would like to have you selling them to.
So,
But this is a commercialization program. It is not a research program. It is an economic development program to make you wealthy, not a research program. And I don't care how many times, how many R's you put in SBIR, it's not a research program.
so
It's
in
about products and services and money and jobs.
So in that context, you should have an emphasis and depict a clear marketing path to revenue in your technical
Yes, sir.
description.
And it needs to be based upon an advantage in the marketplace derived from the advanced technology. If you're writing a research proposal, you're in the wrong pew. The other 98.5% of the federal budget, federal research budget, is for that kind of stuff. This is a 1.5% set aside of the federal research budget. 2.5% at 11 agencies, but it's a 1.5% set aside of the federal research budget. That's all they're giving you guys. You guys, small guys who make all the technological advances, the ones who hire all the people, etc., you're getting 1.5% of the federal budget, research budget. But it has special rules and attributes around it. It's different from normal government contracting. It's not about research, even though it's research money. So there's a research component, a necessary component, but that's not, that's 1.5% of the whole thing. The whole thing is about making you wealthy so we can tax you. I like to say it that way. The wealth is really about getting product and services on the street for sale. And that's the proposal you have to write. If you don't understand that, you shouldn't be playing here. That means you've got to go get the MBA out of the business school. If you're an academic trying to go here, you need a team of people. If you're a small technology guy who really understands the technology, but you don't know how to sell anything, you better find yourself a partner, somebody to go with it. You need to come up with a team. When you're writing a proposal is not a technical disclosure. It is a document of persuasion. Don't let that get away from you. It's a document of persuasion. What are you trying to persuade them to do? Trust you. They need to trust that you are going to get products and services on the street if they give you their money. It's a precious little amount of money, and they waste an awful lot of it going to the wrong folks. So if to get them to trust you, you're going to do that, you're going to have to show them a team, a well thought out pathway, an understanding of the marketplace, an understanding of why people buy what it is you're developing. How to sell it, who buys it, how the purchasing decisions made. None of this is talking about technology. And oh, by the way, you've got to put an eminently polished research proposal in there, a research plan in there. They have to trust your research plan. They have to trust your research first. If they don't trust that, you're dead. On the other hand, if you go to NSF, then I'm going to read your research first. Where are they going to go to? You want to take a guess at where NSF, anybody ever applied to NSF? NSF requires letters of support, they call them. They need to be letters of commitment. I don't like the word letters of support. But the first place, after they've read your summary statement, the first place NSF reviewers will go is to those letters of support to see if somebody else thinks this is worthy. If they don't find it, they're done. They don't need to waste any more time with you. They can go somewhere else.
I know Glenn's got a question, John.
Yeah, what's the worst part of SBIR being involved in it? What you mentioned at
It's
the beginning.
hard,
that
it's
a lot of-
hard, only 1 in 9 applications is historically won funding. We're going very rapidly to 1 in 20. It's getting very, very, very much more competitive. It's a hard deal.
I mean, what's
And for
the-
you, as a
I
small
mean, what's
business
the-
trying to survive, putting time and energy together to write $1 billion proposal
I'm not talking about
for
the
$150,000
I mean, once you
revenue?
get it. I mean, once you get it.
Once you get it? The hard thing from my perspective is keeping your eye on the ball of getting the commercial last piece rather than trying to do good research. You got to do good research, that's part of it. But you need, the endpoints of your research need to support the overall, the long term. The way they have you write this, it's not supportive of that. You're just trying to determine if it's feasible. Yeah, it's feasible, but what do you have at that point? You need to have something at that point that actually fits the strategy to the long haul.
Is there a
And people,
monitoring?
that's the hardest thing
Is there a monitoring process of what you're doing during that phase?
No, you have to do it yourself. And DoD people will sometimes monitor it, but at NIH you'll play hell to find somebody to even talk to about it. It depends on the agency and what's going on. But that's my thought of the hard. That's one reason I teach this project management class, is to help people understand how to make it happen. You plan from the beginning to make it happen, and then you monitor for things that are going wrong, and you put corrective action in. But at the end of the day, you get what you want, and what you want is something that is useful to your company for revenues, not I know it works. Right? There's a big difference in how you set up and run your programs. You've had enough time. We'll go over here.
Can you share with us any examples of small companies that have used SBIR and become entrepreneurs?
AudioBox.
Qualcomm, iRobot, iRobot.
Your telephone would not work without SBIR technology. Period. Most spacecraft would not be up there without SBIR technology nowadays. Almost no robot in the world works without SBIR technology now. Most of the medicines that are coming out that you're using that have less side effects and more effect are SBIR technology. 20 to 25% of the world's most important outcomes, most important technologies are coming out of this little bitty program.
And is it very regimented in terms of the time frames? Because I see
Yes.
the schedule here. So
Yes,
have to-
you turn in on time. If you're more than 59 seconds late, they'll cut you off. You won't get to you're done. But
But you mentioned getting to the technical person within an agency. That they
you need to understand, well, I'm not sure about the technical person as much as understanding the agency's philosophies and policies and culture. You ever heard the statement, know your customer? Know your customer. Here you got 23 agencies, and once you get into 23 different components, you have 11 agencies with 23 components, and once you get into those, there are different offices and different things going on. You can imagine, you go to the Navy, you've got submarine programs, you've got airborne programs, you've got land-based programs, you've got IP programs, you've got IT programs, you've got... What do they need? Worse than that, who's going to be the reviewer? And how do you push their buttons? So my 9.5-hour class, I don't teach you how to push the buttons. I teach you how to go determine what those buttons are so you can push them. I couldn't possibly keep up with all that. No 70 people could keep up with all of that. You have to find your target, define it, and go after it like a laser. And you have to be willing to try time and time again because this is so competitive. And that means a small business who's barely struggling to keep their nose above the water has got to write a proposal that takes an aerospace budget to do it. They're incompatible. It's hard. Nobody says it'd be easy. They let us fat boys do it.
John, is the process subject to peer review or program manager review?
Both.
The application.
Well, in most cases, it's going to be not even peer review. It's going to be government guys who have a mission to do. But when you talk about the agencies that typically use grants to get money to you as a mechanism, they're going to use what they call peer review. What that means is that those people are potential competitors to you, and you're having to give them sensitive intellectual property information in order to evaluate it. But they're not government-controlled people. When you give government people technological information, if they misuse it, the government will help you track them down and put them in jail. However, if you talk about non-government people, the peer review types, they'll punish them. They won't get to review anymore. That's the only punishment they can mete out. It's up to your lawyer and their lawyer to figure out who owns the intellectual property and find it out. So peer review is people from your industry coming in and reviewing what you're offering. That's the peer review thing. That's why, well, most of my clients demur from that side of the world. They try to keep it in the contract side so you have the government people looking at it. When we go to the grant side, we have to be real careful. We have to give them enough information that we can be believed, because they have to trust you. You have to give them that amount of information, but you don't give them any more than you have to make sure that they have the ability to review it. But what was your question? I went over.
Well, that was it, because the issue of peer review also is you run a little bit of, and I think you kind of answered in a way, a little bit of jeopardy, because the peer, so they're first degree research.
They sign non-disclosures, non-competes, non-go to the bathrooms, but we all know that a document is only as good as the integrity of the person who puts it in the paper.
John?
I want to make sure that.
Yeah, let's take the last question and then wrap up. And John will be here, so answer a couple of questions.
I'm going right now in the process of putting an SBIR proposal together that's due September 5th. And I'm struggling with...
September 5th, September 8th?
No.
NIH?
Yeah.
So
So I'm kind of struggling with, addressing the technical aspect of it. If I say there's 10 pages of technical input, how much of that 10 pages, say, should be dedicated to the marketing aspects of the device you're working on versus the research-oriented work that you plan to do?
at some agencies, that question would make more sense than the one you're going for. You don't have 10 pages to begin with. You've got 7. You've got 1 page of specific games. You've got 6 pages of the technical project. At the same time, they only give you 7 pages. You have to put 25 pages of proposal in there. You've got to have 25 pages of proposal information in that document you're writing. So you have to use some chicanery, some tricks, some approaches, etc. to do that. But there needs to be a reasonable amount for NIH. NIH is still working this as a research program. However, if you show up as valid from the long haul commercialization, you'll stand head and shoulders above those guys. But the people that are doing the reviews, and this is the analysis you need to think about, the people doing the reviews at NIH are still academics. They don't have the tools to evaluate a business plan if you put it in there. They just don't. On the other hand, they recognize good business thought, that kind of thing. They're smart people. But they're from the tech side. So this is a good analysis. Every agency, you've got to figure out who the agencies are, who the reviewers are, etc., and how to deal with it. In this particular situation, they've cut the proposal down into a ridiculously small amount of space, and yet there's still a lot of information that has to go in. If you look at the instructions, they don't really ask you for commercial stuff in there, except tell us a little bit about, I think the question, the way they've phrased it is, tell us about your market opportunities. So if you just say, well, this sells here, this sells here, this sells here, you've answered their question. And that's really all they asked. The problem was that's not enough to sell it, to differentiate you from the other bunch of proposals they put in there. You got to come up with a strategy, and it's going to be different depending on which committee's going to review it. And you don't know at NIH which committee's going to review it because they take it in the door into the Center for Receipt and Review, and they distribute it in accordance with the title you put on it and the summary and the abstract. Some non-technical person will read those and assign you to a committee. Or you can write a cover letter telling them where you want it to go. Most people don't have any idea that's what you need. none of our clients ever turn anything to NIH without telling them where they want it to go. It still may not go there because you've got these low-paid administrative people just making those decisions. But most of the time, most government people want to do the best they can for you. So if it wound up in the wrong place, it probably wound up in the wrong place because they thought they were doing the right thing. They're not trying to cause you any problem or anything like that. They're trying to do the best they can for you. But you got to come up with strategies to deal with that kind of stuff. And the NIH is the worst one to mess with that way.
So, I mean, based on what you just said, you can't really, I mean, you have to kind of have some emphasis on research and development.
That's research. Research and development is the first one. This gets the biggest score of anything in there. And yet, you won't win it unless they can trust you to get it on the street if you're successful. So you need to give them some information about that and make them comfortable that they can trust you to make it happen. Most people who write to NIH don't deal with that issue. If you try to deal with that issue, you'll win most of the time. Because you'll be in a technology fight out with people who only turn in technology proposals. Differentiate yourself.
John, thank you.